Okay, so let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt real? Not productive, not comfortable, but actually present in your own skin. I had this moment last week that honestly creeped me out. I was having a minor disagreement with a friend, one of those annoying, lingering tensions, and instead of calling them, I opened an AI chatbot. I asked it to draft a polite but firm apology that resolves the conflict without making things awkward. And it did. It was perfect. It was frictionless. It was terrifyingly efficient. It didn't just write the words, it calculated the exact frequency of politeness needed to keep the peace. But as I hit send, I felt this weird chill. It was like I'd just outsourced my own soul. I had successfully deleted the awkwardness, but in doing so, I deleted myself from the interaction. We're living in the era of the frictionless UI of the soul. Every app, every algorithm, every social convention in 2026 is designed to remove the clicks from our lives. We block people who annoy us. We mute opinions that challenge us. We use AI to buffer our emotions so we never have to feel the sting of a raw reaction. It feels great, right? Like we're finally winning at life. But here's the glitch. Why does a world with zero friction feel like a world where we don't even exist? Why does being perfectly comfortable feel so much like being dead? We've optimized human interaction for speed and comfort, forgetting that meaning isn't something you download, it's a byproduct of the friction we're trying to erase. If there's no resistance, there's no traction. Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're talking about why your smooth, curated life is actually a ghost story, and why you desperately need to find something or someone to fight with. To understand why this smoothness is killing us, we have to look at a word we've been taught to hate. Ambiguity. In ancient Rome, the word ambiguous literally meant wandering or moving from side to side. To be ambiguous was to be actively alive and in motion. To be certain was to be static, and in Rome, if you weren't moving, you were probably a statue or a corpse. Fast forward to 1947. Simone de Beauvoir, one of the coolest existentialists to ever walk the earth, wrote The Ethics of Ambiguity. She argued that we spend our whole lives trying to escape the sting of being human. She called this the serious attitude, the desire to be a fixed object, like a rock or a tool, where everything is defined and unbothered. But Beauvoir dropped this truth bomb. To will oneself free is also to will others free. Here's what she meant in 2026 terms. Your block button. It's a suicide switch for your personality. See, Beauvoir believed the existence of other people is a threat to our ego because they're unpredictable. They're friction. But she also realized they are the only condition of our own existence. Think about a mirror. A perfectly smooth digital mirror shows you exactly what you want to see. A filtered, sanitized version of yourself. But a cracked, textured mirror, one that pushes back and distorts your expectations. That's the only way you actually see your edges. If you delete everyone who challenges you, you lose the mirror required to see who you actually are. You become a ghost in a vacuum. I'll be honest, when I first read this part, I had to put the book down for an hour. It's that uncomfortable. We think we're protecting our peace, but we're actually just building a tomb of certainty. We've traded the wandering of a real life for the efficiency of a digital grave. We aren't living, we're just hovering. Now, let's get into the mechanics of your brain. Because friction isn't just a philosophical concept. It's the biological operating system of your mind. John Dewey, a philosopher who was obsessed with how we actually learn, called conflict the gadfly of thought. A gadfly is a literal biting fly that keeps a horse moving. Dewey argued that conflict isn't a toxic bug in the system, it's the BIOS update. It's the only thing that stirs us to observation, memory, and invention. Think about your social media feed. You've spent years curating it into an echo sanctorum. You haven't encountered a genuinely opposing thought in 6 months, and because of that, your brain is starting to liquefy. Cognitive psychology actually backs this up with something called desirable difficulties. Humans build stronger identities and better memories specifically when they encounter obstacles. When everything is fluent and easy, your cognitive muscles atrophy. You're not just losing an argument, you're losing the ability to think. When you use an AI to filter out disagreements in a virtual meeting, or when you use a dating app that matches you with 99% predictive compliance, you aren't finding your tribe. You're performing a personality lobotomy. You're deleting the only mirrors that show you who you are. Here's the intellectual shock I promised you. You aren't feeling lonely because people are mean. You're feeling lonely because you've curated a world where no one can touch you. Peace is often just the silence of a tomb. Real existence requires the sting of another person's freedom pushing back against yours. If no one ever disagrees with you, you have ceased to exist as a distinct entity. You've become a ghost in your own life, haunting a perfectly smooth hallway where nothing ever happens. You're invisible because there's nothing for the light to bounce off of. So how do we fix this? How do we introduce grit back into a frictionless world without becoming a total jerk? I call it the grip protocol. It's about choosing grip over gliding so you can feel the floor beneath your feet again. Strategy 1, the unghost protocol. We've all done it, ghosting a friend because an awkward 10-minute talk feels like too much emotional labor. My challenge? Send one honest, slightly uncomfortable message today. Don't use AI to draft it. Let it be messy. Let it be human. Resolve that minor tension manually. That awkwardness you feel. That's the sensation of being real. Strategy 2, Steelman Coffee. Once a week, find a podcast or an article from a source you usually mute, someone you think is problematic or just flat out wrong. Don't listen to get angry or find clips to mock. Listen to find one logical point you can actually respect. Hold that point in your head for 10 minutes. It's like weightlifting for your soul. It forces your mind to stay sharp instead of just melting into your biases. And strategy 3, analog resistance. Find a hobby with no undo button. Woodworking, gardening, oil painting, pottery. Something where the material fights back. When you're coding or typing, you can always hit Ctrl-Z. But when you're carving wood, the grain resists you. If you're too soft, the clay collapses. A mistake leaves a permanent mark. That resistance is what makes the final product meaningful. In a world of zero Kelvin aesthetics, where everyone wants to be untouchable and unoffendable, choosing to engage with the grit of reality is a revolutionary act. It's not about being difficult, it's about being present. It's about remembering that you have weight and volume. Here's the final synthesis of everything we've talked about today. Meaning is a byproduct of the resistance we face. If you remove the resistance, you remove the meaning. We are so afraid of bugs in our relationships and glitches in our comfort that we've tried to patch our entire lives, but the bugs are the only parts of you that are still human. The awkward pauses, the heated arguments, the moments where you have to struggle to understand someone, that's where life actually happens. That's where the porcelain cracks and the moss grows through. Stop trying to reach a state of total inner peace and zero external conflict. That's for statues. Real life is loud, it's messy, and it's full of people who are going to annoy the hell out of you. And thank God for them. Because without them, you're just a ghost in a machine, scrolling through a perfectly curated void. You aren't a finished product, you're a process, and processes require heat. So here's the question I want to leave you with, not in a meditation way, but genuinely. Are you staying comfortable because you're afraid that if life finally pushes back, it'll find nothing there? Who are you when the world isn't smooth? Go find someone to argue with. Go find a task that makes you sweat. Not to win, but to remember that you are still here, still breathing, and still capable of being moved. Thanks for exploring the cracks with me. I'll see you in the friction.